Okay, let's dive in. 4 NBA titles, 4 MVPs, the NBA's all-time leading scorer. I mean, on paper, LeBron James's legacy.
Yeah.
It seems absolutely rock solid.
Totally unassailable, you'd think.
Hmm.
But there's this other conversation, isn't there? It's getting louder. Are his comments, the off-court stuff, starting to maybe chip away at that?
Right, that's exactly what we want to unpack for you, the learner. We're going deeper than just the headlines today.
Yeah, we're really looking into those key moments, those controversies where LeBron used his voice and trying to figure out, well, how might that be shaping how history remembers him?
We want to get past the noise, understand the nuances.
And to do that, we've gathered quite a bit of analysis, different observations on this. We'll look at specific times he spoke out and, importantly, how people reacted. Media, fans, the whole picture.
So why should you care about this deep dive?
Well, maybe you're fascinated by sports legacies, how they're built, how they change, or maybe it's the whole athlete activism angle, the power of celebrity voices.
Or even just how public opinion works these days, especially online. We think this exploration offers some maybe surprising facts and a clearer view of a really complex story.
We're connecting these specific debates about LeBron to, bigger questions about how we even judge greatness in the first place.
Exactly. So is his outspokenness leadership, or does it sometimes cross into, well, entitlement, as some critics say?
Can words really tarnish that level of on-court dominance? Let's get into it.
Okay, before we jump into the controversies, let's just quickly set the stage. Remember the hype, the chosen one.
Oh, yeah. Unreal expectations from day one. And his game, it was just different. He had the vision of a guard, the skills of a wing, the power of a big man, all rolled into one.
And the achievements just piled up.
Yeah.
20 All-Star games. I mean, that's just incredible consistency.
And winning titles with 3 different teams, Cleveland, Miami, LA, that's rare air. Shows he could lift different groups to the very top.
Plus, becoming the all-time leading scorer. Passing Kareem. It's staggering, really. Longevity and peak performance.
But it wasn't just about basketball for him, was it? That more than an athlete idea.
Right, that became his mantra.
And he backed it up. The I Promise School in Akron, speaking out on social justice. These aren't small things. They're woven into his identity now.
Which is why this whole debate about his legacy, particularly the off-court stuff, feels so significant. It's not just about basketball anymore.
And that brings us to this tension. As he gets towards the end of his career, the focus on his words, the criticism, that whiny label people use, it seems to be getting stronger.
Yeah, there's a feeling that maybe, just maybe, this narrative could start to overshadow the actual playing, which is kind of wild to think about.
Okay, so let's dig into the first big example, the load management controversy back in 2023. This felt like a bit of a turning point for some people's perception.
It really did. LeBron wasn't happy with how the NBA was handling load management, or at least how the conversation around it was going. He felt like he was being singled out.
Which is interesting, right? Because he's been famously durable for most of his career, missed fewer than 20 games most seasons, played 71 that year.
And he basically said, look, I've been playing almost every night for years, and now you're saying I'm the problem. You could hear the frustration.
And this was happening while the NBA itself was trying to crack down, Fans were complaining about stars sitting out, so the league brought in new rules, fines, the 65-game minimum for awards.
Right. And LeBron seemed to feel that other guys, maybe younger stars managing their minutes, weren't getting the same heat he was.
That comparison was definitely part of his point. The reaction, though, it was really split.
Yeah, you had some media outlets like acknowledging his work ethic but questioning why he was complaining so publicly then. That's when the whiny tag really started sticking online.
Social media went nuts. Memes, threads. That line, LeBron's great, but he needs to stop complaining about everything. You saw that everywhere.
But his fans pushed back hard.
They did. They pointed to his track record showing up year after year. And they asked if the rules were really being applied fairly to everyone. So definitely 2 strong sides to that argument.
And thinking about legacy, this felt different. For years, his playing kind of shielded him from criticism, right? His stats were just undeniable.
Exactly. But here, the complaints themselves seem to get more attention, maybe overshadowing the fact he was still playing a ton of games at his age.
It maybe changed the lens slightly. Perhaps as players age, we expect more stoicism. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and legacy often involves comparing players, right? We think of Jordan, Kobe. They had this image of relentless toughness, never showing weakness, never complaining publicly like that. So this load management thing, even though it was about playing time, it fed into this broader narrative about LeBron's public persona, how he handles things differently.
Okay, let's shift to another moment that really stirred the pot. criticizing the refs during the 2023 playoffs. That definitely added fuel to the fire.
Oh, absolutely. After that loss to Denver in the Western Conference Finals, he did not hold back.
What was the exact quote again? Something like,
The refs are out here deciding games. It's not about basketball anymore. It's about their agenda. Pretty blunt.
wow. And that came after a tough game, right?
Hmm.
A controversial call. Lakers didn't get many free throws.
Yeah, the context mattered. But,
Yeah.
players complain about refs all the time in the NBA. It's almost part of the game.
True, but with LeBron, there's this history. He's argued for years that he doesn't get the calls he deserves, maybe because he's so big and strong.
That's his long-standing point. He feels like defenders get away with more contact against him. And if you look at his free throw attempts that season, like 5.3 per game.
Compared to someone like James Harden, who was getting nearly 8.
Right. You can see why he might feel there's an inconsistency there.
The media reaction this time felt sharper, though. That
Oh.
crybaby label got thrown around a lot more.
Yeah, Sports Illustrated had that line, something like, his greatness is undeniable, but the constant complaints make him look small.
Woof. And social media, predictably, was a war zone. People posting clips of him maybe flopping, others showing stats on missed calls against him.
Total chaos online. And then the NBA fined him $25,000.
Which just added to the whole thing, made it seem like, yeah, he definitely crossed the line in the league's eyes.
What's interesting, though, is comparing the reaction to him versus, say, other outspoken players. Think about Draymond Green or Chris Paul. They complain a lot about calls.
Yeah, they do. But does it stick to them in the same way? Does it become part of their overall legacy narrative like it seems to with LeBron?
That's the question. Maybe his sheer level of fame just amplifies everything. His platform is so huge.
So even when he's playing incredibly well in the playoffs and his numbers were great in that series, this kind of controversy can almost overshadow it.
It feels that way sometimes. It raises that question about how these moments stack up over time, how they shape the perception for people who maybe didn't watch his whole career unfold.
Okay, let's pivot again. This might be the most complex piece, the more than an athlete stance, his social commentary.
Absolutely crucial. LeBron hasn't shied away from using that massive platform. Think about police brutality, racial injustice. He's been very vocal.
That I Can't Breathe shirt back in 2016 was a powerful moment.
Definitely. And the whole more than an athlete brand really cemented that. He wasn't just going to stick to basketball.
It feels like his activism ramped up after, 2014?
Mhm.
After Eric Garner and Michael Brown?
Yeah, that seems like a turning point. And then standing on stage at the ESPYs in 2016 with Wade, Melo, and CP3 calling for athletes to step up. That was huge.
But that's also when the backlash got really loud, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Very polarized reactions from then on. You had people telling him to stick to sports, that whole shut up and dribble thing from Fox News in 2018.
Right, that became the rallying cry for his critics on this front.
So the reaction is just split right down the middle. You've got civil rights leaders, younger fans praising him, comparing him to Ali even.
Seeing him as using his power for good.
Exactly. But then you have the other side accusing him of hypocrisy, pointing to business deals, or asking why he's silent on certain global issues.
And online, it's just constant debate. He's a hero versus he's just virtue signaling. Or linking back to the other critiques, he's just whining to stay relevant.
And this is where it gets really interesting, maybe that aha moment for understanding his legacy. It's truly a double-edged sword.
How so?
Well, his activism clearly elevates his legacy beyond basketball. He won Sports Illustrated Sports Person of the Year in 2020, largely for his off-court work. That broadens his impact massively.
Okay, yeah.
But it also makes him a much more polarizing figure. And those criticisms about his activism, they often bleed into and reinforce the whiny narrative from the other controversies. It's all interconnected.
So it complicates things. It shows how tricky it is for athletes today when they step into that space.
Incredibly tricky. The expectations, the scrutiny, it's immense.
So when you put all these pieces together, the load management stuff, the ref critiques, the social commentary, you see how this narrative, this sometimes negative perception, builds up over time.
Yeah, it's the cumulative effect. It's not just one thing. We saw that ESPN poll in 2023 showing more people viewing his off-court behavior negatively than a few years earlier. That suggests a shift.
And when you compare him to legends like Jordan or Kobe, their public image was much more controlled, polished.
Definitely. Or even current stars like Giannis, generally less outspoken, less involved in these kinds of public debates. LeBron's approach is different.
And the media environment now just pours gasoline on it all.
Oh, absolutely. The 24/7 news cycle, social media, everything gets amplified instantly. Every comment gets dissected.
There's that study mentioning negative athlete stories get more clicks.
Right, which incentivizes focusing on controversy. So these narratives around LeBron just keep getting fed.
He seems aware of it, though. That quote from the Athletic interview in 2024.
I'm not here to please everyone. I speak my truth, and if that makes me a villain, so be it.
Pretty defiant. Basically saying, this is who I am, take it or leave it.
It is, and it taps into this bigger trend, right? Athletes are expected to be more real, more transparent now, but they also face way more judgment for it. It's a paradox.
It's a tightrope walk, different from how things were decades ago.
Massively different. And we absolutely have to talk about the racial dynamics here, too. That's crucial.
How so?
Well, research shows Black public figures often get way more online hate and criticism when they speak out on political or social issues compared to white figures.
Okay.
So when LeBron speaks out, especially on issues of race and justice, the backlash he receives might be intensified by those underlying societal biases. It's an important layer to consider.
That Pew Research study pointed to something similar, right?
Exactly. It adds context to why the criticism might feel so relentless sometimes.
And thinking about his whole career arc, he started out so cautious, didn't he? Trying hard not to be controversial.
Very much so. Very media trained, careful. Then the decision happened in 2010.
Oh boy, that changed everything.
Massive backlash, accusations of arrogance, disloyalty. It really shifted public perception. And maybe it freed him up in a way. Since then, he's become much more willing to be outspoken, to build his own platform with his businesses and activism.
So he evolved from avoiding the spotlight's glare to kind of stepping right into it, maybe even directing it.
That's a good way to put it. He embraced the platform, warts and all.
Which brings us back to the big question we started with. Can this incredible basketball legacy actually withstand all this off-court scrutiny? Is it really at risk?
It's tough to say definitively. There are such strong arguments on both sides.
Well, let's tick off the factors in his favor. First, just the sheer longevity and continued excellence. Playing like this near age 40, it's absurd.
Unprecedented, really. Then there's the off-court impact, the school, the advocacy. That stuff has real-world meaning, especially for younger generations who value that.
And history tends to focus on the big numbers, right? The points, rebounds, assists, the titles. Those stats are monumental. 40,000 points? It's hard to argue with that.
Those are the bedrock, hard facts that aren't going away, but there are risks on the other side.
Okay, what are they?
Well, that whiny narrative, if it sticks, it could color how people look back, especially if he doesn't win another ring. Narratives can be powerful, even against hard stats.
And the comparisons will never stop. People will always compare him to Jordan, maybe soon to Wemby or whoever comes next.
Yeah.
And those comparisons might highlight what some see as flaws in his approach.
Exactly. And the polarization from his activism, it might mean he never gets that near universal love that maybe Jordan had or Ali eventually got. Some segment of fans might just always hold that against him.
So putting it all together,
Yeah.
what's the verdict, even if it's a provisional one?
My gut feeling. His legacy is probably secure because the achievements are just too massive, too historic. The impact both on and off the court is undeniable.
But
That narrative, the whiny label, the controversy, I think that will be part of the story. A notable footnote, maybe? Not the defining chapter, but definitely a recurring theme in how his career is discussed.
And his own words suggest he's okay with that trade-off. That quote about chasing his own standard, not approval.
Right. I'm not chasing anyone's approval. I'm chasing my own standard. That seems to be his final stance on it. Authenticity over universal acclaim.
So let's wrap it up. We asked, are LeBron's comments putting his greatness at risk?
And we've seen the different angles. Critics say yes, the complaining diminishes his aura. Supporters say no, it's just him being authentic, using his voice.
It really highlights that judging a legacy like this isn't simple. It's complex, multifaceted.
So maybe the final thought for you, the listener, is this. We live in an age where we seem to want athletes to be more than just athletes, to engage with the world. So is LeBron's willingness to do that, even if it's sometimes messy or critical, actually a flaw? Or could it be seen, down the road, as a pioneering part of his legacy?
How will future generations weigh the incredible dominance on the court against the outspokenness, the activism, the whole off-court persona?
That's the question to keep mulling over. It's about more than just basketball.
Definitely something to think about as his story continues to unfold.